guys, welcome back to week 3 of Building Erebor. Now, since the last update, there has been a lot of progress that I've been able to get done, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get started. Alright, so I thought we'd start off at the same place that we did last week. So that's obviously this first base plate right here. Now, not much has been done in relation to everything else with this base plate, primarily because it was mostly already completed to a certain extent. Now, the things that have been changed is obviously you can see right here the start of a river, and just a few bits of tiling right there and some foliage and little bits of grass over here. So if we talk a little bit more about those things, if you remember in the last update, the river was very different looking. It was actually more angular in a way, which I didn't like that much, and instead of having wedge plates and everything and sloping down towards the river, it was just rocks going down. So I didn't really like that thing. I thought I could make it look better, which I did, and I'm quite happy with the results. Obviously, it is not finished. I am going to order some of these tiles so that I can finish off the river, along with a bunch of other wedges, which you will see I will need a ton of them for other parts of the mock as well. Now, I decided I needed to spruce it up a little bit because it was a little plain with all the boring dark tan. So I added little patches here, which I quite like. I started off just by putting reddish brown wedges and curved plates and everything in different formations so that they give a nice shape to them. And then I put dark green on that. And then on top of that, I added different colors of olive green, normal green, and sand green. So that's what happened there. Over there in that corner, same kind of general story except without the brown. I wanted to add, like I said, just different patches to break up the boring tan. Although I did talk about these tiles in the last weeks and things like that, which is what I did over there because I really like that design. I think it fits well with the whole theme and color scheme of the whole mock, so that's why I went ahead with that. So let's move on to the next base plate. Alright, so this is going to be the new part of the mock that you haven't quite seen yet, and most of it is focused around this river that you can see starts down here and stretches out to the other side of the mock. Now, as the river is going to be one of the main parts of the more landscape features of the mock, I wanted to build around the river, so that's what I try to do. I talked about already the wedges surrounding. This is the design I'm going to go with Building Erebor. White plates, and then I'm going to put trans-light clear tiles on top of it. I think it's a really nice effect, and it contrasts well with the kind of a little bit dull color of the dark tan. So I think putting a lighter color against it really makes the mock pop in a way. So over here in these corners around the edge, you can see that I did start putting some more of that reddish brown plating, so it makes it look like there is a forest that kind of melds over in this area over here, obviously, which you can't see, almost as if it stretches out into the distance. Now, the river does continue around there, but there is a path that leads from Dale to the wall of Erebor, which is what I started over there. So let me get you a closer look at that. Okay, so here is the path, and if I must say, I do really like the design. So I kind of came up with it when I was designing the river, because the river was my focal point when I was starting to build. And then after I experimented with all the wedges and everything, I thought that it would be a really good idea for making that curvy lane of the path that leads to Erebor. So that's kind of how I got the inspiration. Obviously, it's not water, so I try to make it look a little bit more rugged, which is why I'm mixing plates and tiles at the same time. I think it looks much better than just making it smooth tiles or all plates, because all the ground is just normal plates and the river is tiles, so I thought, let's make the path something different. Now, in terms of the wedges that go around it, I made like a 2-layer wedge. So the first layer of wedges is the tan layer, because it doesn't just go from solid path and then straight to the ground. There has to be sort of a blending phase, which is why I did, tiles, then tan wedges and plates, then dark tan. So it feels more continuous and, in my opinion, a little bit more realistic. Okay, so what you see before you is going to be the last part of landscape that I worked on this week. So if you remember in the first week, I explained how there was going to be more of a steeping hill coming down. Now, I tried to recreate that. I'm not overly satisfied with the results at the moment. It might change, but this is just the first steps of experimentation to see where we're getting with things. So you can see that the river does end there, or you can think about beginning there as it continues along here. Now, I didn't want to do wedges for the whole thing because maybe that would make it a little bit boring. So you can see that on one side there is a little bit of a rocky side to the river, but that will eventually blend into the wedges. So that's what's happening there. Over where it's more of a steepening hill, you can see I try to blend in plates and tiles again, along with just little patches of rocks that I think just breaks it up. Over there on the right hand side, you can see right here, I played around with a few techniques. Now, I did use that same design for my Lego Endor mock, and I really liked it. So maybe it appears to you differently, but that's supposed to be some sort of stone steps. Not really sure where it's supposed to be leading, but I thought it's really cool. It's more of like a natural forming rock shape that just happens to look like stairs in a way. So I thought that was really cool, playing around with snot and things like that. Right, so the last thing is the city of Dale. Now, if you remember in my last video, I had finished building at about right here. So in this week, I built from here around the side, and then I also did a little bit of interior work and stuff inside, which I will show you in a little bit. So continuing with the same wall design, I really liked it the last week, so I thought, why not? Why change it? It looks really good. Let's just keep it. Then I started making that little bit of a curve, which I think turned out pretty good. Now the entrance gate is over there. It's not going to be a main focus of Dale, but I didn't want it to make it look boring either, so I will show you that in a little bit. Now, these buildings are the same, however, I have done a few little tweaks to make them a little bit more functional and allow me to put a little bit more detail into them. So let's show those. Okay, so this is what Dale looks like from the inside. Now, over here, it's pretty much the exact same, just so you guys can get an idea of what that looks like over there. Now, the entrance, it's not supposed to have so much detail, but you can see here that I'm trying to make some sort of a, well, I think the correct term, I guess you could say, is like bridge or something that goes between these two buildings, which won't really have an interior, but it's more for the looks. Now, over there in the corner, you can see that it's a little bit exposed here. I don't really like that, so I think I'm going to close that off and make some sort of a smaller building, maybe similar to this in that sort of feel. This little structure right here, if you remember before, was just supposed to be a square building for the looks from the outside, but I decided to give it also some use, so I built what's supposed to look like maybe some sort of steps so that it looks more like an archer tower in the sense for the defense of Dale. Now, on this building, it may look the same from the outside, but I have done some interior work and I've made it a modular building, so let's look at that a little bit more closely. Okay, so hopefully this is a better angle so that you can see what I've done to the inside of the building. If you remember before, this was a solid wall, and what I did is I put arches so that it could be more like an entrance to that room. And if you can see there, there's a little bit of a bed. So in that room, I'm trying to recreate the scene in the Battle of Five Armies movie where Gandalf tells, I believe his name is Albert, or yeah, I think it's Albert. He tells Albert to give the Hobbit a room, and that's the room that Bilbo gets. So I don't know where it is in Dale, and they don't really make that clear, so that's what I'm going to use that as. And let me just show you a better angle. Okay, so this is a modular building, so it comes off like that, and you can probably see a little bit better into the inside. There's just a small bed and a nightstand, and then there's a little poster on the wall right there. it wasn't supposed to have too much detail, but just something to put there. Okay, there's just another view of that building. It's from the side, and well, as you can see there's a central window which I try to recreate after the scene in the movie where there is a large window right next to the bed. So hopefully that gives some sort of an indication what the room is supposed to be, but if not, it's just to break up the solid walls and everything like that. So I nearly forgot to tell you guys all this, but this is going to be the beginnings of the facade of Erebor. If you look online, there are pictures that show 3 main arches in Erebor, so I try to recreate that more for the scale of it, not for the final design. So this is more of a prototype and not what it's actually going to look like. Alright, so I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week's update. Now in terms of the upcoming weeks, I plan on trying to get a little bit more done with the river and possibly starting on the rock wall. So those are my plans for the upcoming weeks, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like. Comment down below on any details or changes or any ideas for this mock in general, and hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one. Bye.